So E3 2021 is right around the corner, and of course, a lot of people are looking forward to Nintendo's presentation with their Nintendo Direct on June 15th, myself included. Now, one of the main things that a lot of people feel is going to be involved in Nintendo's Nintendo Direct presentation is a little game called The Legend of Zelda, and it really makes perfect sense. There's some stuff we know about The Legend of Zelda going into E3 2021 that would make sense for Zelda to be a cornerstone at this event, but it's The Legend of Zelda's 35th anniversary celebration. We got some stuff last year for Mario's 35th celebration. Would Nintendo be doing something similar to The Legend of Zelda? And the whole time I have said yes. If you look at previous videos of mine, I've always said that Nintendo sort of holds Zelda to a bit of a different standard than even they do Mario games. Look at like the Nintendo GameCube, for instance, which had a bunch of classic Zelda games re-released on it, yet there was no classic Mario games re-released on the Nintendo GameCube. And Nintendo seems very in tune with the Legend of Zelda franchise. Well, I've gotten some information that I'm not going to say is 100% concrete, but it's definitely concrete enough for me to want to talk about it in this video because I fully expect this stuff to be at E3 2021. And yes, there will be some spoilers, so if you are a diehard Legend of Zelda fan and you want to be surprised, you might not want to watch this video. But what is going on with the Legend of Zelda at E3 2021? I might just know. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video. Yes, got a little pimple going on right now, but you know what? We're gonna make this video anyways because I'll just put up a lot of gameplay footage on the screen. And let's talk about the Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary and these potential leaks that we have. So of course you can't talk about the Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary celebration without talking about Skyward Sword HD. Now this game is of course confirmed. It's coming to the Nintendo Switch. It will be available towards the end of July, and we've already seen this game. We've seen a lot of the controversy with the amiibo. I'm definitely on the side of controversy with this. I think it's ridiculous that this amiibo is only used in this game and it's $25 and it actually adds a quality of life improvement into the game, but I'm still going to buy The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, just not with the amiibo because of the new controls in this game. I'm really looking forward to playing this game with a more proper control scheme. I didn't really like the Wii's control scheme for this game, so this is a big plus to me, and this is a reason that I'm looking forward to this game. Now, I fully expect Nintendo to do a trailer for this game and maybe show off some of the gameplay elements that they haven't shown off yet, and of course show off some of the areas that they haven't shown off yet. I will be very interested to see if they have added anything into this version of the game though. A lot of people feel like they're not going to add anything into it, and I mean that's completely understandable to feel that way, but I think with the success of Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which was yes a part of Mario's 35th anniversary celebration, that Bowser's Fury portion really added a lot to that game. It made it feel like almost a completely new game, and it was a completely separate entity. Now I'm not expecting anything like that for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD in terms of how long and how much gameplay you'll be able to get, but I do expect there to be something new in this game, and I feel like a lot of people will want to see something new. Maybe a new mini dungeon or something like that, or a new full-on dungeon. I'm not quite sure, but I do know that The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD is going to be a big part of this presentation. Now, we need to get into the fun stuff though, because this is the stuff that's sort of the unknown, and one of these main unknown things is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. So The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, of course, was introduced to us 2+ years ago nearly, and people lost their minds when they saw this. Do I think it's going to be called The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2? No, they'll probably call it like The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening 2 or something like that, Link's Revenge or something like that. But obviously a lot of people are anticipating this game, and based on the little teaser that we saw, it seems like Zelda will be playing an important part in this version of the game. Now, what does that mean as far as the gameplay is concerned? I'm not quite sure. But as far as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 being at E3 2021, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion based on some information that I have gotten. And there will be a new trailer for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 at this event. Now, really, to me, that makes perfect sense. When you look at Breath of the Wild 2, I mean, the engine for the game is already there as far as the physics and whatnot are concerned. Obviously, they're just going to utilize the Breath of the Wild engine and expand upon it, add new things to it, tidy up areas that maybe needed some improvement, hopefully work on the frame rate that got a little bit muddy in certain areas in the game as well. But like the graphical style, the physics engine that people are still discovering new things in, I feel like that is far along enough to where Nintendo can showcase a stable version of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, which, based on this information that I have received, received will be available at E3 2021 via a new trailer. Now, as far as a release date for this game is concerned, I haven't heard anything on that. That's definitely up in the air right now. It looks like it could be a holiday 2021 game. It looks like it could be a spring 2022 game. Like, I wouldn't be surprised either way with that. And of course, that would fall within the 35th anniversary celebration because, I mean, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury came out at the beginning of 2021, and that was still in the thing because it's from March to March. It's based on the fiscal year, not the actual calendar year. So Breath of the Wild 2, I think it's definitely time to showcase this game. I feel like this game is definitely far enough along in development to where Nintendo could show a lot of cool things going on with this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they have expanded upon this game versus the original game, because really the original game really sort of set a different tone for open world games, but I definitely feel like there was some room to expand upon it as well. So it's going to be very exciting. But as far as Breath of the Wild 2 is concerned, I would definitely bank on it being at E3 2021. But beyond that, though, we have definitely a bit of mystery with The Legend of Zelda, a bit of wonder, a little bit of excitement. What else could there potentially be? I mean, realistically, we know about Skyward Sword HD. We know Breath of the Wild 2 exists, so to get a trailer at E3 2021 wouldn't be that big of a surprise or anything. But what about surprise announcements? Games that haven't been confirmed with The Legend of Zelda. Could we see more crossover stuff like what we saw with Cadence of Hyrule? I haven't heard anything about that, but obviously if Nintendo is willing to license out one of its main IPs to a smaller indie company to utilize in their game, I mean, that game sold very well, and a lot of people bought that game, myself included, based on the premise of it being a Zelda style game. Like, I didn't even really like the gameplay of that game, to be honest with you. I beat the game simply just to beat the game, but I never really felt like I understood the rhythmic style of the game and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised to see stuff like that. Of course, there's going to be like the Legend of Zelda clothes and stuff like that, like they did with Mario, but you guys don't care about that stuff. You want to know about games, and there has been something that's been heavily rumored leading up to E3 2021 involving the Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary celebration, and based on information that I've heard, it seems like it is actually a thing, and that will be The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker dual pack for the Nintendo Switch. And I know that's going to come as a bit of a shock to a lot of people, because when Skyward Sword HD was announced, everyone thought that this possibility was not going to happen because of the fact that they're releasing Skyward Sword as its own $60 game. So why would Nintendo bundle in two games that were, you know, arguably better than Skyward Sword HD? I'm sure I'm going to hear that in the comments section. Look, I love Twilight Princess, I love Wind Waker, so why would Nintendo bundle those two games together and then have Skyward Sword as its own entity? And I feel like that's because of the fact that Nintendo actually had to put in additional work into the controls of the game, because really they sort of had to rework all of the controls for Skyward Sword HD, whereas a game like Twilight Princess and of course the Wind Waker, these already had HD versions available. These games already came out on the Nintendo Wii U with HD versions of them, and they looked great and they played great. They changed up some things in those games as well, so it really wouldn't be that much work to release those two games that have already gotten HD versions as a dual pack compared to having to rework something like Skyward Sword HD's basic mechanics within the game. Now, I don't have any sort of timetable for this release. I would anticipate maybe a fall release for this compilation, just depending on what they're doing with it. Is it going to be a strict port like what we saw with things like Super Mario 3D All-Stars Collection, where they pretty much just put, you know, basic ports of these games on the Nintendo Switch, or will there be some things reworked in the games to sort of implement, you know, Nintendo Switch quality of life features? I wouldn't expect too much out of these games. Just looking at how they handled 3D All-Stars, I would expect it to be more in line with something like that. And it doesn't matter because these two games are great, and it's going to be great to be able to play these games portably for the first time ever, as opposed to, you know, having them on the GameCube or the Wii U or anything like that. I think these HD versions are really going to shine. Now, of course, one final thing to talk about is the Nintendo Switch revision, the Nintendo Switch Pro. Mochizuki from Bloomberg said that we would be getting information about this more than likely before E3 2021. So where is this information? And will this be at E3 2021? And will it play a part in E3 2021? I'm not even sure anymore, man. Like, I'm starting to lose faith in this whole situation, and I think it's going to be a bad look for Mochizuki at the end of the day if this system does not have some sort of announcement before E3 2021 or even shortly thereafter, because it's obviously going to impact what these companies are doing. The whole premise of the Nintendo Switch revision leading up to E3 2021 being revealed was the fact that third-party companies and Nintendo themselves could potentially showcase their games running on this new hardware so it would look better. But if if that gets out of the equation, then what are these third-party companies going to do? And what does that say about this revision? I definitely think the Nintendo Switch Pro revision exists, but the whole thing about it coming out in September or October and getting a reveal before E3 2021 just sounded a little too good to be true. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people got hyped up for this, myself included, because they were excited because they thought that Mochizuki and Eurogamer were spot on with this. Is that going to be the case? Like I said, I haven't heard anything new about it, so I don't know, man. It's going to be a very interesting situation if this week wraps up, though, and there is no Nintendo Switch revision announcement, and how that will play into the Legend of Zelda games, because a lot of people were expecting Breath of the Wild 2 to potentially utilize that system, and I think it could have been a very good thing. But if that's off the table, then how is this game going to look and run? Alrighty, so there is some latest Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary information for you guys. Like I said, I'm not 100% on all this stuff, but I'm pretty confident in talking enough about it to where I could share this information with you guys. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think of all of this stuff. Do you want to see, you know, Breath of the Wild 2 at E3 2021? I mean, of course you do. Do you want to see this dual pack come to us from Nintendo? Do you think Nintendo is going to do it? I would probably put my money on them doing it, just saying. And of course, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Check out other videos on the channel as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.